Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're just going to give it a few more minutes, let some folks settle in. It's great to see you all joining us today. I recognize some names. This is really fun. Just going to give it a couple more minutes. I see some folks still joining us before we get started. Hi, folks. We're just going to give it like one more minute, make sure that everybody gets settled and is ready to join us. So give us 1 second. All right, I think we're good to go. I think we're going to get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our Beans virtual event 2021. We are so delighted you could join us today, and I hope wherever you are zooming in from, things are going well. I'm in my dining room. So hope wherever you are, the sun is shining or it's a really great day. My name is Julie Chapman. I'm the Director of Recruitment Partnerships for the Undergraduate Admissions Office at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And while I've been a part of the BEANS program in some fashion for nearly 20 years or so, I've officially been a BEANS committee for the past 4 or 5 years. So thankfully, I'm not a committee of one, and I'm actually joined today by the full BEANS committee. So this includes Mallory Cranis from Emerson College, Stephanie Gallery and Julia Brown from Brandeis University, Nicole Howell from the College of the Holy Cross, Allie Wilkins from Simmons University, and of course, Elizabeth Rogers from WPI. So we've been working really hard this year to figure out how we were going to connect or reconnect with all of you. And here we are with the virtual BEANS. So we're really excited about this. So, like many of you, we shifted gear this year and we entered the world of virtual meetings and event planning. This is, of course, the first time we've hosted a BEANS virtual event, but in my time, BEANS has always been an absolutely fabulous tool for our universities to connect with counselors and advisors to secondary school students from really all across the globe. So before this event, I did a little bit of digging because I love history, and I checked in with some folks across campus and in our division because I wanted to learn more about sort of the origin story of BEANS. Basically, it started way back in the early 90s. It was something called the 4 College Tour, like 4 colleges, very original. So there must have only been 4 schools that were involved at the time. But it became BEANS in the late 90s. So BEANS stands for the Boston Extended Area Network of Schools, because some of the schools are in Boston or just outside, and then some of us are out in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is just about an hour and a half traffic billing between Boston and Worcester. So, although over the years, the partnering schools have maybe changed a little bit every so often, Brandeis, Emerson, Holy Cross, Simmons, and WPI, we've all been working together for some time now. I'd say just about a decade with the current BEANS programming. It's really kind of a cool mix of really unique universities in Massachusetts. We kind of all have our own thing going on, our own personalities. BEANS is best known, though, as a fly-in program for secondary school counselors and advisors. But besides this virtual event today, we have also had kind of like on the road events where we've maybe come to you. This was something that I got to do in my 20s at WPI. That was super cool to be able to travel all over and, quick rapid fire hit a bunch of cities in like 3 or 4 days with my colleagues from Emerson and Holy Cross. And it was really fun to be able to connect with you. So it's been a while since we've done that, but we might consider doing this again in the future, of course, travel and budget willing. So we'll see what happens. So for the on-campus fly-in program, we usually hold this in April. Typically, we host about 45, less than 50 guests for 2 nights in Boston, staying at a very, very nice Boston hotel, and 1 night in Worcester, and then spending basically half days on each of our college campuses with just a little bit of time to also explore on your own while you're part of the BEANS program. But honestly, often folks will come a little bit early or they'll stay a little bit later because they want to visit one of the, over 100 colleges and universities in Massachusetts, over 250 colleges in the New England area. So it is a good opportunity if you're really, really from far away. But because it is a fly-in program, we do select our guests from a rather large list of interested individuals from more distant locations, like unlikely you can jump in a car and get to us. And we do aim for a mix of domestic, international, public, private, independent, community-based counselors and advisors to join us. So it's a really nice mix of folks from different backgrounds. And it is really a ton of fun. It's an excellent way to get to know our institutions. It's also a great way to connect and get to know colleagues really from kind of both sides of the college admissions counseling desk, as they say. So, I know a lot of you are kind of just learning BEANS for the first time, either recently or today. I know many of you are planning or hoping to join an in-person program in the future. I also know, because I've been sneaking at the attendee list, that there are definitely some Beans alumni joining us, having participated in a Beans event in the past, which is very, very cool. So I hope you'll drop by the Beans booth today to say hello. You know, I can't speak for all of the committee members or partnering colleges, but I can safely say that in my 20 years at WPI, Beans has been one of the most rewarding programs I've had the pleasure to be a part of. And like you all, I'm really excited to see kind of what this whole virtual Beans thing is about today. Yeah, I do want to mention I'm at the Beans booth today. I'm kind of running it with some of our partners from the other universities. So definitely stop in, say hi, and connect and tell me what you've been up to. I did want to mention too, just a quick housekeeping. If you want the live transcript of this event, you can click the button at the bottom of your screen so you can have that. But yeah, thank you again for joining us. I'm going to turn things over to Mallory. She's going to share a little bit about the day's agenda and then prep for the student panel. So thank you all again. I'm super excited that you're here.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. Welcome again. We're very excited to be seeing you virtually today. As you can see, the agenda for the program today is up on your screen right now. You should have the links to these in your confirmation email. So when we do move from this, there'll be a brief break and then an admission panel. And then later on in the day, if you have any additional questions for specific institutions, you're welcome to join us at our drop-in sessions later. And like Julie said, throughout the afternoon, she will be manning our Beans booth along with some of our other colleagues from all of our partner institutions. But now we're going to move on to our student panel, what you all are here for this approximately 45 minutes. So I love moderating this panel. Learning from our students is always one of my favorite parts about these types of events. And I'm very excited to hear from our students from all of our other schools as well today. So for starters, we're going to have all of our students go around and introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into some questions. At any point, you can put any questions you have in that Q&A box, and we'll grab them out to ask our students if you want to know something specific. Otherwise, we do have other staff behind the scenes answering questions as well. So if you have any more staff type questions, they can get answered as well. So you could just put those in the Q&A. So without further ado, let's have our students introduce themselves. Juliet, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Hi, my name is Juliet. I use the she series pronouns. I'm going into my senior year at Emerson, majoring in communication sciences and disorders. And I'm originally from Warwick, Rhode Island.
Anybody can go next.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena Biotti. I am just finished up my junior year at Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass. I'm originally from Chelmsford, Mass, so about 45 minutes away from Worcester. And I'm a psychology major with a double minor in education and deaf studies.
I can
go next. Oh, go ahead.
So my name is Sanjitha. I'm a rising junior at Brandeis University. I'm majoring in HSSP, which is the public health equivalent major at Brandeis, and women's gender and sexuality studies. And I'm from Westford, Massachusetts originally, which is about 45 minutes away from Waltham.
Hi, everybody. My name is Izzy. I am a rising junior here at WPI. I am from Coshocton, New York, which is about 4 hours away from WPI. And I am majoring in biomedical engineering with a concentration in biomechanics, and I'm double minoring in biology and mechanical engineering.
I think that leaves me. Hi, everyone. My name is Madison Poshkis. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a rising junior at Simmons University, and I study political science and public policy on a 3+1 bachelor's master's track. I also have minors in economics and policy studies, and I'm from Auburn, Massachusetts, which is very close to the Worcester area, and I'm about an hour away from my school.
Awesome. Thank you all. So excited to hear more from all of you today. And so we could see all of your faces a bit better. I'm going to X out of that screen and we'll make everybody a little bigger. But we'll go ahead and get started. And I'll ask kind of a starter question here. And again, if any questions come in, please feel free. But let's start off with, what is a hidden gem at your college or university? What is something we wouldn't see on the website that you love to do, or something cool about your school? Don't all jump at once, but everyone can kind of pick and choose as you go.
At WPI, I think one of our biggest hidden gems lie within our clubs. Here at WPI, we have over 250 different clubs and organizations, from Greek life to professional honor societies and things like that. But we also have a ton of really niche clubs. Like we have 2 different cheese clubs, one for selling cheese and one for like taste testing cheese, which is really cool. Our mascot is a goat, so they sell goat cheese, which is really neat. We also have a lock picking club, which you probably wouldn't guess that we have. So they go and they meet every week and learn how to pick locks. And then we also have like Rubik's Cube clubs where they learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and a bunch of different art clubs that put their artwork all over campus, and it's a nice pick me up. So I definitely think that that's one of the things that makes WPI special that you wouldn't really see on an initial visit or on our website.
I can jump in next. I would say a hidden gem at Emerson, kind of in the same vein of like clubs and extracurriculars, has to be our comedy scene. Like student comedy troupes are so huge at Emerson. We have 11 different ones that range all different niches, whether it's like long form and short form improv or like stand-up comedy, sketch comedy. And they all have like this sort of coalition, and it's just like this comedy troupe union, which is really cool. So it's really nice to go and see all the shows. There's probably one show every night. So if you're really into comedy, then you can go see like a new comedy show every single night at Emerson. But it's just probably one of the funnest things I think is a little hidden gem.
I can go next. I think for Holy Cross, something that you wouldn't necessarily get from just looking at the website is kind of the sense of community on campus, and the kind of student involvement with the Worcester community and like community service. So I think kind of being a small Jesuit Catholic institution kind of fosters that involvement in community service. We have a student organization called SPUD, which stands for Student Programs for Urban Development, which is pretty much all different volunteer sites within the Worcester community. So like working with children, working with the elderly, maybe at a soup kitchen, Worcester refugees. And so I think kind of the Jesuit identity really emphasizes that giving back to others, and kind of that can be seen in the Worcester community. And I think since Holy Cross is pretty contained up on a hill with only about 3,000 students, that smaller campus feel really kind of enhances that sense of community as well. So you're always seeing familiar faces, and that sense of community is so strong. If you tour campus, everyone leaves kind of feeling that warmth and friendliness. So I think that that kind of altogether is one of the hidden gems of Holy Cross.
I can go next. So I think at Simmons, the most the hidden gem that sticks out to me the most would be, again, like Elena said, the sense of community at Simmons. And I think that's directly attributed to our small size. We're less than 2,000 undergraduate, but also our women-centered nature. So the inclusion, I think, of the community is what's most important to me, and was a factor that I was really looking at when I toured schools, was what sort of tenets of diversity, equity, and inclusion the campus implements as part of its ethos. And I think that because we were one of the first women's college, formerly women's colleges in the country to stop requiring gender-based identity to our applicants, meaning that if you feel like a member of the Simmons community, chances are you are one. I think that that's a really important part of who we are and how we operate on campus. And like I said, that small size, that women-centered ethos really creates a unique sense of community. I always say to folks when I'm bringing them on tours around campus that I wouldn't be surprised if I stop and say hi to 3 people on a tour, and that when I'm on campus regularly, I leave my dorm early for class because I know I can't walk through campus without talking to like 7 or 8 people that I know from various circles. So it really is a unique community.
Awesome, thank you all. I think a question we're getting a lot through the Q&A, and based on our audience being college counselors, high school counselors, community-based orgs, they want to know when you were a junior in high school, what led you to look at the specific school you're attending now? What made you say, yes, I want to attend this school? This is an important one, so I definitely love to hear from everyone. Whoever would like to go first, feel free to jump in.
I can start off.
Awesome.
I remember in my high school process, something that I was really looking for was the flexibility to kind of study everything I wanted to study, even though I didn't even know what that was in high school. I knew I was kind of STEM oriented. I wanted to be on the pre-med track, but I knew that I wasn't completely in the sciences, and I wanted that kind of flexibility to explore the arts and the humanities. And I remember when I toured Brandeis, my tour guide was absolutely amazing. She was majoring in biology, but also in the arts and humanities and sociology. And I loved that at Brandeis, you didn't have to just select a major and stick with that when you're applying in high school. You really had that flexibility to explore different classes and different interests and different passions. I actually, when I came to Brandeis my second year, I took a class completely out of interest, and then I ended up majoring in another area. So I really like that kind of flexibility and that tight knit community sense that I did get. I remember, Madison, you were just talking about how when you're walking from one place to another on campus, you can't walk without saying hi to like 5 different people. I absolutely love that. I love that sense of community and tight knit family that you really get from these types of universities. And that's really what led me to Brandeis and also made me stay here.
Really similarly to what Sangeetha just said, I came to Simmons as a prospective student, scoping out mostly academic programs. Like I said, I'm part of a bachelor's and master's track 3+1, which is pretty rare. You hear a lot about 4+1s, but Simmons does offer a number of 3+1s, which was super compelling to me as a prospective student looking to go to school in Boston, looking to stay in the New England area, but also looking for a super compelling and unique tracked program. So that program is really what compelled me to explore Simmons as an option. And then, like was just said, I came to campus, I witnessed the community for myself, and it was very obvious to me that it was quite unique. And I kept seeing the same people, even as a prospective student. I had the same campus ambassador as a tour guide twice, and that really let me know how special the community was in terms of the connection that you get to get with the folks that are your classmates and your peers. So like was said, I really was compelled by the academics, but stayed for the community and of course the academics.
For me, when I did a lot of theater all throughout like elementary school, middle school, high school, and I really didn't know whether I wanted to go into theater, or I knew that I just wanted to have like theater and the arts surround me. And a lot of my acting teachers and like theater teachers from outside of high school actually were who told me to apply to Emerson, because a lot of my like friends who I had acted with before, they had been involved with Emerson. And the high school I went to didn't have a huge arts program, so the arts weren't really sort of advertised. So that's why I think I heard more about Emerson through my theater teachers and art teachers, like outside of the school system. But they like told me to go to Emerson for like the reason that I could have a different major, but I would still be completely involved in the arts, like whether it's in my classes, in my co-curriculars, in my community, and everything like that.
What really compelled me about WPI was the way that our academic system is set up. So through our WPI plan, which is pretty much how WPI executes its academics, we don't do the typical semester-based system. We split our semesters up into terms. So each semester has 2 7-week terms so we're on a quarter system essentially. And then within those 7-week terms, we take 3 classes. So that kind of like fast-paced learning system was really interesting to me because we meet for our classes almost every single day. So I'm able to meet with professors and TAs every single day and get the help that I need for my classes, which was really nice. Plus, with our project-based curriculum that we incorporate into our academics, we have the opportunity to travel abroad as STEM majors, which is really not very common. And our school helps us with those costs. Most students go away junior year to complete a project called IQP, which is a social science project. And most students go away their junior year to complete this, and our school will give each student up to $5,000 to help with those travel costs, because let's face it, going to college and traveling abroad can be a pretty hefty cost. So I never thought that I would get that opportunity at a different school. And then when I came here and found out that this was totally an option for me. I was so excited about it, and I'm going to Cape Town, South Africa this fall to complete my project. So I am so hyped that I get to do that. And now working in our admissions office, I get to tell other students about this amazing opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of being a junior in high school, not really, there's so many schools out there and it was kind of hard to narrow down the search, but I think I just really fell in love with the liberal arts approach of Holy Cross and the small class sizes. So when senior year in high school, I shadowed a student for a day and I was just so impressed by how professors were like really new students well. It was kind of like high school, but even more so, like class sizes maybe are 15 to 20 students. So with those small classes, you really kind of get to know your teachers in that one-on-one setting. And something else was the different language program. So I had taken Spanish all throughout high school and knew I wanted something different. So when I was looking at different colleges, I was really impressed by the Deaf Studies program at Holy Cross. And that is something that I have really taken advantage of during my time and even minored in Deaf Studies. So we have like a great sign language program, and Worcester has a really large deaf community. And that's something that really I hadn't known much about or explored at all. But kind of coming to Holy Cross, I was able to get that experience and interact with a new community that I had never really interacted with before because my town didn't really have much of a deaf community at all. So that was something that really appealed to me as a junior in high school, kind of looking at my different options at schools, and something that was really unique about Holy Cross.
Thank you all. This is a fun one. I always like to hear this from students. What is a typical Saturday like? Like, where are you going? Like, what's your favorite thing to do outside of the classroom or off campus, on campus, but in your free time, what's your favorite thing to do at your college?
I can start off with this one. So I feel like there's two sides to it. A typical Saturday at Emerson, definitely you're gonna have at least like one meeting or one rehearsal, something for like some student org, because I feel like at Emerson, you're always busy focusing on projects or stuff like that. Like there is this mentality of like always be working on the things that you're passionate about. So you can't go a day without having a meeting, but they're always fun. So I can't complain. But other than that, I think Mallory's gonna know this. I love shopping in Boston. So I would definitely have to say, like, me and my friends either taking like a stroll down Newbury Street or going to Cambridge, because like it's so, where Emerson is right in the heart of downtown Boston. So everything is really easily accessible, even if it is a T ride away. We have the Boylston T stop literally right outside the dorm. So it's very easy to get all around Boston. So I think Saturdays is like truly the day to go and explore Boston. Or if it's a nice sunny day, you will probably see like half of the student body of Emerson either picnicking out in the common or in the public garden, like just everyone out and about. There's also always like ultimate frisbee games going on a Saturday. So all of that kind of stuff is just like getting outside and really exploring like your surroundings, I would say.
I can go next. So a typical Saturday at Simmons is definitely a good combination of work hard and play hard. So I would say that most students start their day on Saturdays either with some student employment. Like, for example, I might start a Saturday giving a tour for admissions, or if I'm not working, I might be at a rehearsal for the Simmons University Dance Company, which I'm super passionate about. And that's our biggest club on campus with over 100 members. So dance is super popular at Simmons, and you'll find a lot of students at their rehearsals over the weekends. But after maybe studying a little bit or working or going to rehearsal, like I said, much like Juliet said, Simmons students are huge shoppers. We love Newbury Street. We love Copley area. We live right in the heart of the Fenway, so there's tons of great shopping and dining to do there. And in my opinion, the best Saturdays at Simmons end with a Red Sox game. So we have $9 access to tickets to games at Fenway, and that's how I like to spend my Saturday nights for sure, is at the ballpark.
I can go next. I think that my typical Saturday is pretty similar to what Julia and Madison were talking about. I like to have a lot of my meetings or club volunteer type organizations, those kind of things in the morning. And so when I wake up, I like to kind of get those out of the way. And then, like Madison was saying, on a beautiful day at Brandeis, everyone is going to come out and about. My friends have this joke that campus in winter goes into hibernation sometimes, and then in the spring and in the fall comes out of hibernation. And on beautiful days, everyone is outside of the campus center, throwing a frisbee around, picnicking, talking with their friends, honestly, just doing anything, just laying on the grass and staring at the sun. So on a beautiful day, I'm probably outside of the campus center with my friends, maybe doing work outside, having picnic, having brunch. But also I love to utilize the free Waltham and Boston shuttles. So you will always find me finding cute little coffee cafe shops in Boston, in Waltham, and I love doing my work in these coffee shops too, because it brings me more motivation to see other people around me, other college students doing work while drinking an overpriced coffee in a really aesthetic store. But I'm definitely utilizing these shuttles and also just outside all the time on a nice day.
At WPI, same thing, you know, a little bit of work to start out your Saturday morning, maybe your Saturday afternoon, sleep in because you deserve it. You'll find a lot of our sports teams practicing early in the mornings. I know I'm on the women's rowing team, and we are out on Lake Quinsigamond bright and early on Saturday mornings. So you'll find a lot of our student athletes out in the mornings. But like everybody was saying, on a beautiful day, you'll find our students on the quad. Giving tours this spring was kind of funny when everybody was out on our quad playing volleyball. I mean, the whole lawn was packed, and you had to say to the families, like, we didn't plan for it to look like this, to look like a kind of like a cheesy commercial. But Worcester is definitely a food city. It is a foodie's paradise. So you will find many WPI students venturing to different restaurants to eat dinner or to get brunch. I know that I'm always looking for things to do and always looking for places with student discounts or places that will take our on-campus currency. But my friends and I, we are making a list of all of the brunch spots that we go to, and hopefully by senior year, we'll have a definitive rank of where the best spot to grab brunch in Worcester is. So I will keep you updated when that gets completed.
Yeah, so also being in Worcester, where Holy Cross is located, I think food is like, when everyone was talking, that was the major theme I was thinking of, just the amount of restaurants. I know for Holy Cross students, Shrewsbury Street's super popular. So kind of just, it's pretty close to us, about 10 minutes away, and it's one street with just amazing restaurants. So I would say a typical Saturday, kind of like everyone else said, either doing volunteer work or waking up and doing a club or something like that, but also enjoying that time to sleep in, because on the Saturday, that's when you kind of can do that. On Sundays are more like homework all day and you can't really afford that time. I guess something about Holy Cross, we also have food trucks that come to campus, and that's a really exciting thing. So like Worcester has a lot of different, like there's like a whoopie pie truck that comes. We've had in the like tacos, like a Mexican truck. There's ice cream sandwiches, like all different stuff. And so that is when like Holy Cross students swarm the like kind of campus center for the free food trucks that usually come on the weekend nights. So that's a really exciting part. Also, I would say shopping is something I'm passionate about and like to do on the weekends. So Holy Cross has shuttles to Boston. So like Boston shopping is definitely better than Worcester shopping. So if I can get myself to go to Boston, that's always fun. But there is definitely in Shrewsbury, there's a shopping center that we have free shuttles to called Blackstone. And there's a movie theater there, a nail salon, stuff like that. So making it to there on the weekends is also really fun with friends. And again, Holy Cross offers that for free. So definitely great for students.
Thank you. I always love hearing about the weekend stuff, what you guys are doing in your free time. It's always so much fun. We'd love to hear a little bit about a unique experience that you've had at your school, maybe connected to your major specifically. So whether that was an internship, I know Izzy already talked about going to study abroad this coming semester, which is connected to our program, but if each of you want to share an internship or research opportunity or a study abroad experience that maybe was connected specific to the area that you're studying.
I can start. So I mentioned earlier that I happened to take a class out of interest my second year at Brandeis, and then I ended up majoring in a whole other field that I had no idea I would be studying when I was in high school. So this past year, I took a class called Gender and Sexuality in South Asia with a professor called Gauri Vijayakumar, and she's so amazing and passionate, and she helped me find what I was also truly passionate about, which is really amazing. So through her, I found that I really loved studying women's gender and sexuality studies, so I decided to add a major. And I went to her office hours one day just to ask her about the class, how she got into this field, what she was really studying and doing research on. And she told me about this research project that she was currently working on the HIV and AIDS epidemic in South Asia in relation to the current COVID-19 pandemic, and how both of them and just public health crises in general affect marginalized communities. And I was basically starstruck, and I was like, this is so cool. Do you need any help? Because I would love to be on your team. And she offered me a research position, and I've been working with her this past year. I'm very excited to say that I will be a co-author on the article or book that we end up publishing. And just thinking that I got all of these opportunities through taking one class that seemed of interest to me at Brandeis is really cool. And I'm really grateful for all of these opportunities. And she also was telling me about this fellowship that Brandeis has for students to go to South Asia fully funded and potentially study anything that they are interested in. So I'm also potentially thinking of studying abroad next summer in South Asia through this class, through this professor, through this research opportunity. So I just love how it all connects somehow, and it's really amazing.
So like I mentioned before, WPI has projects built into the curriculum. We have the two major projects, the IQP and the MQP, but then like in our everyday classes, we have projects built into those as well, up to the professors' like discretion of what they want to do with those projects and how it relates to their classes. So like I mentioned, I'm going to Cape Town, South Africa this fall, which I'm really excited about. And I'm not sure what my project is going to be yet because we're just starting the prep work for that. So I can't really speak too much on what I'll be doing exactly, but I can definitely speak on one of the projects that I did for my major specific classes. So this fall, I took a class called Biomedical Stress Analysis. So it's just analyzing the forces that work on different bodies, but making it relate more to my major. So for our project in that class, we had to redesign a medical device, which is really, really scary when we first read that in the syllabus, because it's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do that in 7 weeks? But what my group and I did was we took a plate that's commonly used in spinal fusion surgery, and we redesigned it to better fit the natural curvature of the spine. And so we thought by doing that, we would better help. It would make the mechanical loading on the plate itself promote healing in the patient, so make them heal faster, and it would reduce the chances of failure within the plate itself. And so for those 7 weeks, we designed and did a ton of math on that plate, analyzing the forces of an average human, like the average human body on the plate itself. And we did determine at the end of that 7 weeks that it would better help distribute that mechanical loading, which is really awesome to see something that we planned out in the week 1, and then in week 7 to figure out that, hey, this could actually like really work. And what's great about these projects that we do at WPI is that they are great resume builders. So I can go into an interview for an internship or a co-op and talk about this real life experience that I've had in the classroom that translates directly to the field that I want to go in. So the project-based learning at WPI, two thumbs up for that one. It's what really drew me to WPI, and I'm so glad that I was able to get these experiences through my classes.
So something that Holy Cross kind of offers in a lot of classes is something called CBL. So it stands for community-based learning. And a lot of classes offer, like, in addition to just, reading the textbook and having lectures on this material, actually going out into the community and immersing yourself. So a lot of the course, being a psych major with education and deaf studies, that's really applicable to a lot of my classes, trying to like work with children. And so specifically, one experience I had last year was within the Worcester deaf community at an elementary school in Worcester. So as part of that class, once a week, we would go and work with kindergarten students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And so for me, that was such a great experience because it really allowed me to combine what I was learning in the ASL I had been practicing with someone who was really utilizing this language in their everyday life. And also for me entering Holy Cross, I thought that I would maybe pursue a career in elementary ed. So it allowed me again to see that like real classroom experience combining the ASL and the education. And so again, if it wasn't for these CBL components to the class, I probably would never have had this experience and kind of know going forward that that is something like potentially career oriented that I want to do. So I'm really grateful for that program. And like I said, it's just a unique aspect of the language department at Holy Cross that I can't say enough good things about.
At Emerson, we have, for the communication disorders program, we have our Robbins Center for Speech, Hearing, and Language. And what that is, it's a real sort of clinic for the Boston area that's run by graduate students in the communication disorders master's program, but undergraduate students like myself. So basically in your first 2 years of the program, you learn, and with your teachers, you start learning how to write therapy observation reports for all different communication disorders. And then starting your junior and senior year, you actually get to go into the Robbins Center and sit behind a two-way mirror and actually observe real therapy sessions with real people with all different sorts of communication disorders. And you actually get to log up to 25 observation hours needed for graduate schools. So a lot of students will have to wait until after their undergrad to start working on those observation hours. But what's really nice is to start working on those during your undergrad and have them ready for when you want to go into graduate school. And then we also have something that's really cool, a lot of different research labs in the Robbins Center as well, such as the Little Lab, which is it's the lab for infant and toddler language at Emerson, I believe. And it focuses on like language development in children as well as like children with autism. And if you take part in the research co-curricular, which is a one non-tuition credit, it's like a co-curricular that you take and you get one non-tuition credit for like taking part in it, and you get to pair up with a certain professor or a mentor in that program, and it's all through the School of Communication. So there are a lot of communication disorders professors who do it, and you get to sort of be like a intern for them, but it's very closely related, I would say, to an on-campus internship research experience. And if you're working at the Little Lab, you get to learn how to like analyze the data and do some coding when it comes to language. So I would say that's a really cool experience we have related to my major.
So at Simmons, 100% of our graduates do participate in some sort of real world learning, experiential learning. So for a lot of students, that looks like an internship or faculty guided research, or perhaps a clinical placement. For our nursing students, we live right in the heart of the Longwood medical area, so they get to spend their clinicals as soon as their sophomore year at the best hospitals in the world, quite literally. So that's a great opportunity for them. But for me, over in the social sciences, especially on the 3+1 track, there's not a ton of room to intern before your junior year. And that's the year that I'm going into. But cross your fingers for me. Next spring, I'll be applying to a program where I'll be working, hopefully, as a paid clerk or assistant to a Massachusetts state legislator at the Massachusetts State House. That for a lot of students turns into a career in policy analyzing or as legislative aid right after graduation. So that's a really great program endowed by the university that is super huge for a lot of political science students at Simmons, because it is an incredible gateway into a job. But for all of our students, we're lucky to be in the heart of Boston, where a tons of employers and internship providers are. And like I said, for our nursing students, to get to spend your clinical placements at some of the best hospitals in the world is a pretty incredible opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you all. It sounds like everyone's having really great experiences during their undergrad programs. Another question I'd love to hear, which we've sort of touched on, Sangeeta talked a little bit about a faculty member that was really influential for her. But can we talk about either a faculty member that really had an impact on you and why, or your favorite class, which I also think is fun? Doesn't have to be in your major. It could just be like your favorite elective course that you ever took at your college or something like that.
I can definitely speak to this one on a little bit of a non-traditional level for WPI. So one of my professors who was the most influential for me was actually one of my music professors. Here at WPI, we have, we are a STEM focused school, but we do have a humanities program, and a great one at that. And each of our students are required to take some humanities courses. So I'm doing my humanities with a concentration in music. And I went into my music class this year. It was actually one of the last courses I took this year. And I really hit it off with my professor. He was really sparked great conversations around, topics of music and making it not just like classical music that you listen to in the classroom, in elementary school where you're just, zoning out, where we had great conversations about music, and we had some great assignments where we had to compose our own songs and, talk about music from a lens of like what we like to listen to and not just what he likes to listen to. And actually getting close with this professor, Professor Lutch at WPI, if anybody was wondering, he actually got me involved with our concert band. I was in band all throughout high school, and I never really got the opportunity to be in band at WPI because being on the rowing team took up a lot of my time. And of course, academics, I was really concerned about falling behind in my academics, and it turned out really not to be a problem. But he really encouraged me to join our concert band, and he was able to provide me with an instrument to play, and getting me all set up for all that. So I kind of brought music back into my life in a more physical sense this year, thanks to him. So I can't repay him back for that, because it was really a great opportunity to kind of branch out of that STEM world that we kind of have here at WPI.
When looking at my favorite classes that I've taken, I have to kind of go to a class that was not for my major at all. It was called Living Art in Real Space, and it was actually a performance art and like multimodal art class. And it was really cool. It was a really small class. There was only about 14 of us in the class. And it was mainly made up of performing arts majors. So it was definitely a little bit out of my comfort zone, but every week we learned about a new like style of art or a new like group of artists. And we got split up into random teams of 2 to 6 people and had to come up with a performance to show in front of the class. And it wasn't like we got eased into it or anything. It was just sort of like the first week having to just go and do this. And it was really cool because it broke a lot of different boundaries that I don't think I've seen in any other classes, because it was truly focusing on like body as art and all of these crazy topics that I would not have thought to be exploring in a class before. And then all the way through the class at the like last couple of weeks, you get assigned to artists that you have to build a solo performance around, which was like really scary at first to think about as like a basically science major at an art school, thinking how is I gonna like create this huge performance art performance. But it turns into like a really nice and intimate class where I got to know a lot of people on like a very intimate level. And I just think it had to be one of the best experiences, especially looking at how like that class built my confidence from January to like basically May. And it like turned me and my friends into like true performers in such a really cool setting, I think.
I think so at Holy Cross, I would say it's kind of a hard question actually to think of my favorite class, because there's been a few and like professors kind of overlap with the class. But I think for me, I just took it this past semester, but it was an education course on English language learners. And what made that class really interesting too was that the professor was also a high school teacher at the same time. So she was teaching a group of students who were non-native English speakers who recently immigrated from other countries and are now in the high school setting. And so she was taking her like real classroom experiences and kind of teaching us about that. And so in the class, we were all education minors, not necessarily considering teaching, but just kind of interested in the material, but also a lot of the stuff we can apply to our own futures if we do go into teaching. And I think it was super eye-opening to kind of learn these different strategies and kind of techniques that we would use when interacting with students who aren't really that comfortable in English, and kind of the way you do that with high school students who like want to learn, but maybe language is really that barrier. And something that made that class so special was even it was like a remote semester, so it wasn't traditional in the sense that we couldn't go into a real classroom. However, we used this technology called immersion, it's used amongst a lot of the education classes, but it kind of simulates, there's these avatars who like, it's like a virtual setting and you have students in front of you who are able to like react to your every word. So that was really cool because I was able to be like a mock teacher and they were my students. And so we would do these activities where I would teach them a lesson and they would be able to respond to me. So although it was different and something that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for COVID, it was still a cool experience. And that class really just opened my eyes to a different side of education that I hadn't thought about. So.
Like others have said, the favorite course that I've taken so far at Simmons was not part of my major trajectory, it was kind of a leap of faith for me to take a course outside of political science, just because on the 3+1 program, you know, it is pretty regimented what I have to take. So I decided to take a class through the communications college called Media and the First Amendment. That was all about how journalists relate to the First Amendment in terms of freedom of the press, and also how the First Amendment relates to journalists. You know, do we need First Amendment reform? How does that affect free speech and free press when it comes to what journalists can cover, can't cover, especially in the age of protest that we're in right now? So it was a super valuable course with an amazing professor named Rachel Gans-Boriskin, who changed how I think about the Constitution, because again, I come from the field of political science. And this was, again, a very communications focused class through our communications college at Simmons, but it changed the way I think about the Constitution, which was really special. And also through the class, we learned a lot about the rights of student journalists, which inspired me to go and get a position as a staff writer for our Simmons school newspaper. So I think that goes to show how academics and co-curriculars are combined at Simmons in a really cohesive way. And now I'm working towards becoming an editor of that paper. So it goes to show that when you take a leap of faith and take a class that appeals to you but might not fit in your regular trajectory, otherwise, you know, it can lead to some really amazing opportunities.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about the amazing class, Gender and Sexuality in South Asia, with Professor Biju Kumar that I took, led to my research opportunities, all of that. Another class that I took this past year that really stood out to me is called The Sociology of Health, Community, and Society with Professor Siri Suh. We analyzed different public health crises throughout the world that have happened for years and years, and different communities as well. And she really just brought new perspectives into my life that I don't know if I would have been able to see without the class. And she's also teaching a class next year called The Sociology of Reproduction, which I also hope to take. And I just love meeting new professors and hearing about other classes that they're also taking, which will fulfill requirements for my major, but also just are so interesting for me to be in as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you all. So we have a little under 10 minutes and I'm hoping to get 2 more questions in. So we'll do these a little bit more rapid fire. So one question we have is, if you could change one thing about your school, if one thing could be different or better at your institution, what would that be? I'm sure you guys get this question on tour very frequently, but a little, you know, rapid fire for this one.
The immediate thing that comes to mind is a bit funny. I wish that I could have been on campus for the last year, despite the fact that COVID kind of took my sophomore year from me, as I know it did for a lot of college students. But on a more serious note, Simmons is a very academically driven, academically focused campus, which appeals to me as a person, but also I'm super passionate about social life and things like that, and being active on the weekends and things like that. I think that Simmons can be a little bit of a school where people go home for the weekends frequently if they're able to do so. And also just you can find a lot of students who are there exclusively to study on the weekends. And again, that is, I mean, everyone has their own way of being a student. That's not to say that student life isn't super robust. I just think that it's sort of 50-50 split between people who really prioritize their academics above all else and aren't involved in much else, but perform amazingly academically as a result, and people who try to find a nice balance. I am definitely among that sect of people, but Simmons is definitely an academics first campus. And sometimes I wish there was a little bit more to do on the weekends, but you can always find something.
I can speak to this question as well. I think that something that I would change about my campus is having more food options. We have two main dining halls on campus. One of them is completely closed on the weekends. And maybe this is just because I'm lazy because I live closer to one that's closed on weekends. But I think that sometimes the food can get a little bit repetitive, but I know that's also inevitable with almost any school that you go to. The same options are often presented, even if they change it up a little bit. But I also know that our school's dining committee is doing a lot to fix this. And we also have a student dining committee with students proposing new options and proposing more like things that students want to see on campus as well. So it can get repetitive, but it's also like a work in progress, and everything's a work in progress.
When like this question's a little hard to answer because I try to think of like one thing that I would change if I could at Emerson would be like, we don't have a football team, which sounds so silly to want to change, but a lot of things I feel like Emerson misses out on that kind of typical college experience of going and like tailgating a sports game or something like that. But I think we have so many different crazy things that kind of make up for that. So you kind of, when coming to Emerson, you accept that it's not going to be that traditional like university college experience where you go and dress up for the sports, like for the big football game, but in turn you have like this huge thing of student theater and of the arts instead. And there are still sports games to go to, like the volleyball games and things like that. But I have to say, like, that is probably one thing that if I could change about it, just give it that more traditional college feel maybe, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I will go off of that because it's kind of almost the opposite of what Juliet's saying. So Holy Cross is Division I athletics, and so sometimes I feel like there is kind of this divide between like athletes and non-athletes, whereas sometimes I wish that like I think that's seen more in like the facility and the way that like non-athletes can use the same facilities. So I don't think they're ever going to change that. However, like we just built a new wellness center, which fortunately is for the non-athletes and it's beautiful and great. But while that was being under construction, it was difficult for non-athletes to use like the varsity facility. So sometimes that was like kind of, it created a divide there, just in terms of like, but there's lots of club teams as well as intramurals. So I feel like it's not lacking that atmosphere of sports in a non-competitive setting, but sometimes just that divide I feel like is pretty apparent.
I think for me, it would be having our SDCC, which is our Student Development and Counseling Center, have a bigger presence on our campus. It is still on our campus, and it's a great free resource for students to use because I think here at WPI, we do kind of have, towards the ends of final weeks and midterms, we do kind of have a culture of stress up on the hill. Everybody's working on projects and trying to finish up their coursework. And I don't think enough students, myself included, I mean, I'm kind of being a little bit of a hypocrite here, are using the service that's provided to them, to help them manage that stress and kind of help destigmatize that, culture of stress and anxiety that can absolutely stem from academics. Because while we do have a great social scene here on campus with so many clubs and activities and organizations to join, but we are, academics first and foremost, as every school is. But it's that culture can be really toxic if it's built up and it's not dealt with. So for the wellness of our students, I think it'd be best if it had a better presence on campus.
Thanks, everyone. So last question, we've got about 2 minutes. So this one's going to be like really quick. As we said, everyone kind of watching this presentation today is college counselors. They're helping high school students, transfer students, whatever it might be, look at schools and figure out what the right fit for them is. So if you could give one quick tidbit of advice for students looking at colleges right now, trying to decide where to apply, what would that quick bit of advice be?
This is my favorite question. I love when people ask this. My advice in that process is to be brave and make brave decisions. Make decisions that you feel in your bones, because nothing is irreversible about the college process. You can change your mind. You can make new decisions. So make the decisions that feel best in your heart, for you and your family, and make them bravely.
Yeah, I also really like this question, and have only really been asked it once, so it's fun to answer. But I think like just kind of trusting your gut when like touring schools. So I remember like going on a lot of tours and being like, do I like it? Do I not? I feel like you kind of get that overall feeling when you really do like a school and almost shouldn't have to make this like, oh, and it can be like still a back and forth if there's two schools that you really do love. However, I feel like just kind of the sense of the community and other students, and if you feel like you can really fit in on that campus, is kind of an overwhelming feeling, at least that I remember getting. So I think just kind of trust that instinct and you'll kind of know that that's the right school for you.
I would say definitely follow your passions, follow what you're passionate about, and to don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while. If it means going to a smaller school, if it means going to a bigger school, if it means going somewhere where none of your friends from high school are going. I was the only student in my high school graduating class to come to WPI, so I really didn't know anybody. And I think that it's important to also remember that, you know, it's nothing set in stone. You can always go back, you can always transfer, you know, there's always another option for you. So nothing set in stone.
I really agree with what Elena said about really trusting your gut and where you like truly do feel it. Like I remember coming to Emerson, I toured Emerson twice, and just when I came for that other tour my senior year, I just like felt the overwhelming passion and like what I could picture myself at that school. So I think really just being yourself and leaning into where you do see yourself the most and where you can picture like yourself thriving.
I think a little bit of basically what everyone said. I think college is basically just a big leap of faith, and visit the school if you can. I think that when you know, you'll know, and it's just that gut feeling that tells you that you really see yourself there. And like Juliet was saying, you can always transfer, but it's really where you see yourself thriving and being the best version of yourself that you could possibly be, and where you think that could happen.
Awesome. Such great advice from everyone. Thank you so much. I want to start off by thanking our panelists, our students. You did wonderful. I'm so excited to hear from all of you today. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us for this session, our first session of our Beans Conference. I'm going to throw up the schedule on the screen again. So you have about a 10 to 15 minute break before our next panel. You can find that link in your confirmation email again, and we hope to see you all at that admissions panel. Also, one of my colleagues threw in our email address to the chat. So if there was any questions we didn't get to just now, please feel free to send them along to us. We're always happy to connect you to students at our institutions. And I'm sure we'll be covering many questions in the admissions hot topic panel next as well. So we hope to see you there. Thank you again for our students. Have a great day.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.